Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to start this Bava Kama daf Ayin Beis. We are going to begin at the top of Ayin Beis and Aleph by the two dots. A shoichet v'nimsas treifa. A person shechs a animal, and it turns out that it's a treifa v'chulu. So this Gemara is actually on the v'chulu. But let's see the whole Mishnah. Part of this Mishnah, it says that if you shecht and found out it's a treifa, or you shecht chulin ba'azara. So according to the Tanakama, you pay dal v'hei. Rav Shimon says you're putter in these last two cases, b'shnei elu, because it's a shchita shein ruya. It's not a proper shchita, and therefore anything which is not a proper shchita, you don't pay dal v'hei because it's not a shchita. So on this, Amalei Rav Chabibi b'choizna. So Rav Chabibi said, Lil Rav Ashi, he said the following to Rav Ashi, Shema Mina. We can derive from here the Einu L'Shchita Elo B'Soif. It must be, unlike we said in yesterday's daf, that Yesh Lo Shchita Mechil B'Atsoif, that the entire process is accounted for when you shecht, from the very beginning of the shchita through the middle process until the very end. It's all connected. It's like all one very long process. However, you hold that Einu Shchita Elo B'Soif, that none of it really counts, so to speak, until the finished final product. It must be that this is what we hold. Why would we think that? Look at Rashi. Shema mino minatani masnisin hashaykhet chulin bazar chayev. Why would the Tanakama say, if you shecht chulin bazara, which is also bahana, why would you be chayev dal b'hei? Because the iyesh lo shchita midchaviat sof. If the shchita is from the beginning all the way to the end, kivan the shachat ba'port to asra. As soon as you begin the process, similar to the case of avodah zarah we saw in yesterday's daf, as soon as you begin the process of shechting an animal, which is chulin in the azar, which is a big no-no, so it's already asra b'hana at the very beginning, if you hold mitchil v'atzov. And therefore, because of that, idach lo damar katavach, it's not yours, because it becomes also b'hana. It's like, as Rashi said in yesterday's daf, it's like you throw it into the fire. The shchita is nothing. It's not really a real shchita. It's nothing. And it's not yours anyway. Even though you did a shchita, at the end, it's not yours. And therefore, you're only chayiv when you shech something which you have some ability to get hana from or have ownership of. Says Rashi, Hilkach kol kama de tavach, when you shechted, demari katavach. It has to be that's yours. Gemara shchita who the mitzvah b'hana. At the end, it's already asa b'hana. So therefore, it must be a raya by the case of chulin shenishchut b'azara the eno shchita el b'sof. And therefore, that's the reason why the din is that it's still yours up until the very end. And also because of that, the din is that you're going to have to pay dal v'hei because you shechted something which is yours. So Amalei Rav Huna Bereda Rava Kika Mechayev Ahu Porta. When we say you're chayev, it's on this small amount. In other words, you're chayev dal v'hei right away at Ahu Porta, at that very beginning. So the fact that you began the process of the shchita, okay, fine. Maybe it's true. It's asur b'hana at the beginning, not just at the end. But the truth is, you're chayev dal v'hei at the beginning as well. At the beginning of the shchita, that also is a chayev. Amar Rav Ashi lo tinchi. You can't tell me this. That's a daichik, because it utvachai kul be'inan v'leika. When it says utvachai, it means that you shechted it. It doesn't mean you did a little nick in the neck. It means you did the entire ma'isa shchita, so which means that you can't possibly be chayev dal v'hei for the beginning process, because tfachoi means you actually did a real shchita, which means it was completed. So it must be that the chiv of tfachoi is only when the mice is completed. But at the time of the mice being completed, it's not yours. So we're back to the question. El kasha. So Rav Gamda. He said Mishmei the Rav in the name of Rav the following answer. Kagoyin. Sheshachat miksa siman and b'chutz. What you did is you began the process of shechting this chulin properly outside of the Beis HaMikdash. However, v'gaman bifnim, you completed the shchita, the last part of the shchita, inside. Exactly how did you do that? Shehiyah and all these different inyanim of hilchos shchita. Okay, but this is academically this is a possible answer, and therefore it was not usher until you did a maisa of shchita in the Beis HaMikdash, and that was only at the end, because you only did, let's say all of it is a beginning and an end. Let's keep it simple. So you did the beginning outside, so you didn't aser it yet, but once you bring it inside and then you do the maisa, which simultaneously at the end, so even though it's true, it's chol shenishcha b'dazara, but it was yours at the time of that action, and therefore you're chayav dal v'hei. Some say it a little bit differently based on this. Rabbi Levi Saba actually, the shechita only is at the end. So again, it's a machlokes how we view shechita. Normally, Rav Chabibi no Rav Ashi. So Zalem except Rav Yochanan. Probably Rav Yochanan who says that yesh no shechita mitchil v'atsof that chol shenishchit b'azar lav deraisa. It must be, and this is actually a machlokes in Shas, whether or not we say chol shenishchit b'azara is a din deraisa and rabbanon. There must be a raya as we continue ayin beis and beis that he holds it's not deraisa. Why? Because the e salka daitach deraisa. So if in fact chol shenishchit b'azara is a din deraisa, so the chi shachal porta asra idach lav damar katavach. So basically it's the same question, but we're saying maybe it's totally on whether or not chulun shnishchatu ba'azor is a din deraisa. Amali Ravach b'reina Rava nakika b'chayev namiyahu porta. So that's not necessarily a raya. In other words, it's possible that Rav Yochanan still holds that when it comes to chulun shnishchatu ba'azor, it's a din deraisa. However, when you're chayev dalad v'hei is at the beginning. So in this again, same language of the Gemara before. Amali Ravashi lo tidchei. You can't give me that daicha kateretz t'fachay kul be'inan v'leika elakasha. So again, if that's not acceptable, what is the proper answer? So Amli hachi yomer Rav Gamda mishmei Rava ki kamachayev kigan sheshacham nexa siman b'chutz v'gaman b'fnim. So therefore, since you did the ma'isa shchita at the beginning outside, you didn't aser it, and you brought it inside, it's still not aser, and you did the last action. So therefore, when you did the ma'isa shchita at the end, it's still t'fachay. You did a tficha, a complete shechting, and it was done b'soif, and therefore it's still yours. You're chayav dalid v'hei. So that's how we're gonna answer this kasha. Okay. So let's see. We have a new test over here. Okay. Let's see the next Mishnah. Masnisa. Ganav al pi shnayim. So you stole in front of two witnesses. So there's no question you're going to be chayav kefil for that. The tavach hamachar al pihen. And as we said previously, you have the same, even if you don't have the same witnesses, but if you have the exact same witnesses, certainly going to be chayav dal v'hei. But listen to this: the nimsu zaymimin. It turns out this first group were Adam Zayman. A second group of people came and said, "How could you say that this man stole and shachted and he's chayav dal v'hei? It's not true. Imano hisim b'makom ploni. You were with us in a different location. You were with us. You were in Chicago, and you're saying this ma'isa happened in Muncie, in New York. What are you talking about? So you have to pay everything." So Rashi says, and the Gemara is going to actually establish this. It's only kishahuz mutchil al tficha. That there's two actions. There's hazama on the stealing. There's also hazama on the shita. So he reminds them first on the tficha. We'll have to see why that has to be in that particular order, but Rashi helps us out pointing that important detail. And we'll see in the Gemara the reasoning why. We're not going to explain it yet. Okay, let's continue the Mishnah. Ganav al pi shnayim again. So clearly, he should be chayiv kefel. But tavach hamachar al pi shnayim acherim. So as we said before, that does work. It's not considered to be chatzi davar. But elu ve'elu nimsa zaymin. So these people were Adam Zayman, and the other group were Adam Zayman. So Rishainim, the one who said that you stole, which is a lie, because you weren't, well, maybe you did steal, but they're not Adam to be able to have given such testimony because they didn't see it. So Mishal and Tashmi Kefel. They have a chiyuv to pay Kefel. That makes sense because they stole. They're claiming that they're making you pay Kefel, so they have to pay Kefel. V'achrayim Mishal and Tashmi Gimel. This is an interesting chiddush. Now the achrayim, they themselves are relying on the other people's testimony, but nonetheless, they are also going to be chayiv to have to pay. And on this, Rashi says it has to be also that shehuzma achrayim tchila, that the people who said tavach hamachar, that they're the ones that became Adam Zayman first. And Rashi here helps us out because the Edi Geneva huzma tchila, that if let's say the Edi Geneva were first, then we say batla edus tvicha dilma bailim machruhuloi v'chi mizami amay mishalmi. So if it's the other way around, then you say that, oh yeah, if there's Eidim Zaymin first on the Geneva, so then other people who saw him shecht can say, well, that Adis is nothing, and since that Adis doesn't hold water, so therefore I shouldn't have to pay Dal Behay. Okay. Nimsa Achrayim Zaymin, let's say the latter ones are Zaymin, so who, Mishalim Tashmi Kefel? The Ganev, because the first group of witnesses who said you stole, those witnesses are still valid, so therefore he does have to pay kefel. The hein mashal min tashlomi gimel. However, those witnesses who are Edom Zaymin who said that he shechter or sold, so they have to pay gimel. So it doesn't matter, even though it's true. We find that there's some fishy testimony going on over here, but nonetheless, since the people who said that he stole, their testimony is strong and rock solid, so in that case, the Ganav still has to pay kefel. Echad min achrayim zaymin. Let's say one of the achrayim is zaymin, so batal edus shniya. That is mavatal the other one. Says Rashi, Mehu mishalom kefel. The Ganav will still pay kefel mishum rishayim. The hein paturin the ein mishalmin mamayin ashizimu shneihen. So the famous Gemara with Shimon Shetach, I believe it was, in which he killed someone al pied echad. Okay, so clearly you need two witnesses. So even though one of the two witnesses was found to be an Eid Zaymim, so the other one is not going to pay anything, but nonetheless the Ganav will still have to pay the kefil. Echad min Rishayim Zaymim, if one of the two original witnesses who said that he stole is a Zaymim, so batal kol edus. Shim'ein Geneva in Tvich Ein Mechira is the important line. If there's no Geneva, then there's no Tvich Mechira. So you have no testimony about Geneva. Tvich Mechira's testimony means nothing. Says Gemara. Itmar. Famous Gemara. Eid Zaymim. When it comes to Eid Zaymin, which is very fascinating, you would think this machlokas should be found in Masechtas Makos. It's not. It's here. Eid Zaymim Abai Omer Mafrehu Nifsol Rebel Omer Mekano Abahu Nifsol. So when you have an Eid Zaymim, the question is, does the testimony get postled from the time that they're found to be Edom Zaymin, or does it retroactively postle? Says Rashi, what does that mean? Heyed ben Nisan. The testimony was in Nisan. Huzam al Edus zu be'iyar. And the Hazama is the next month in Iyar. Kol Edus sheheyed ben Tayim psulois. There's no question, obviously, their testimony is not valid, but what if they testified on other court cases in between? Do we say that they become puzzle edus for everything in between retroactively, or it's only mekan labo? So what's the svar of either way? So only at the time that they testified, this person's already a Russia. The Tar Omer al Tashas Russia aid. We can't have an aid who is a Russia. He can't testify. So Rabbi Omer no Mekanu Abahu. So why? He's a Russia, because aid Zaymim Chidishu. Really, the whole concept of Eidim Zaymin is a Chiddush. We can't just call this guy a Russia, because it's a Chiddush, the whole concept that we're going to be Saimech on the second group of witnesses over the first, as the Gemara now says. You have two witnesses that said that you committed a crime. Then you have a second group of witnesses said that, how could you witnesses say this? You were with us. If it's 2 against 2, we should say maybe my chazas the Sai Lahani. Who says that the second group is more believed than the first group? Why are we believing the second group for the first? Maybe the second group is a problem. Okay, more in Mako says it's a case of a status hizu. It's possible if another group comes, what the din is. So it gets a little more complicated. But push it in 2 sets of witnesses. Why don't we samech on the second? It's a chiddush. Hilchach ein lecha boy el mishas chiddush eilich. Therefore, it can only be go based on the chiddush. The truth is, he holds like the sheet of Abai. He says no. That's pasal mafreya. There's no question about it. So what's the machlokas? The amru mafreya hu nifsol. The hainu time of the Rava, when Rava says his din regarding Im Zaymin about Mekan Bahu nifsol, as we continue to Ein Gimel Mud Aleph, mishum pseida de lekuchais. The whole issue is when it comes to pseida lekuchais. Says Rashi, shechasmuhu al shtar mechir b'entayim. Let's say they signed all these different documents. So now all of a sudden, even though it's true, it makes sense that you should say it's puzzle lamafreya. However, when it comes to all matters of business, and there's all these contracts that they may have been involved in, we don't want to cause upsed lekuchais, that all these different transactions are problematic. So my binai. So what's the difference between them? Says Rashi, Bain Hani Tarti Lishna de Rava. So the first lashon of Rava says no. In all cases, we hold that's makan laba, and the second is no. It's only because of pseided lokuchos. So the answer is yasihidu be trey lachad trey lachad. Let's say you have 2 and 1, 2 and 1. Inami de paslinhu begazlanusa. They testify that he's a thief. Lahachlish de armi mishum chidish. So the first machlokus about is it because there's a chiddush involved? Leika. You can't say there's a chiddush because it's not 2 against 2. It's 2 to 1, 2 to 1. There's more people, so to speak, on the other side. Even when they say Trey Kameya, right? So that in itself is, again, ayin the mafarshim exactly how to understand that. Or Gazanusa, the guy's a known robber in public, right? So it's no chiddush so there's no question. So according to that, there's no chiddush. There's still nishnu sedel kuchos. Rav Yirmiyah medifni avad rapapa uvda kavasi de Rava. So I actually paskin like the sheet of Rava that it was only makan laba who nifsol. Ravashi omer hilchas kavasi de Abai. No, the halacha really should be like Abai. In fact, the hilchas kavasi Abai, in the famous expression bial kagam, the halacha in fact is like Abai in the 6 cases of Yal Kagam. But if you ever have a machlokas Rava and Abaye, so typically we're going to paskin like the shita of Rava, but over here in the ayin of Yal Kagam, the ayin is Eid Zomem, and therefore we paskin like the shita of Abaye that you're nifsol lamaf reya. Says Rashi, because the nusam Shlo hizimu ella ha'idu shnayim. There's no edim zayim, there's just testimony al elu shehin gazlonim, that he's a thief. In other words, the second group of witnesses didn't come to say anything about imono ha'isim. They're saying that these guys are gazlonim, a totally different testimony. It's a totally separate thing. What is Yal Kigam? So unfortunately, Rashi doesn't help me too much. Simani Shmua Ishain Vizu Echan Mehen Eid Zaymim. And if my memory serves me, the Yud is Yush Shlomadas in Bamatzia. Eid Zaymim Afreyo Nifsol. Lamed is a Lechi Oymin Me'elav in Masachnas Erevin. Kedushin Shin Misron Labia, whether it's Havi Kedushin, of course, Masachnas Kedushin. The Gimel is regarding a get, and mem is a mummer te'avoin. So all these different cases are machlokes Rav and Abaye, and we paskin like the shita of Abaye. Question 10: my time in the Rav the Eid Zayim Mekan Albahu Nifsol. So either because it's a chiddush, and there's no ein locha el mishas chidusha, or it's a takana mishum sedel kuchos, so we're a little bit lenient when it comes to that. Okay, TB 1. Mehematam in the Rava the Eid Zayim Mekan Albahu Nifsol ma nafkan mina ben hatamim. So let's see what I wrote. O mishum chiddush my samach hani trey v'lo hani trey. O mishum seder de lekuchos v'nafkamina o be'ede gazlanusa o trey b'chad Adkan.